Hey everyone, it's Cheer. We're going to be doing an interview with Def Pos. He's part of our trail team. So let me invite him on. Here we go. Okay. Should be getting on. Hello, this is take two. There he is.
Hello.
Def Pos, how are you?
Good. Oh man, I'm like
Hi.
flipped upside down. Sorry. I thought we were going landscape. Sorry.
Oh, I don't know if you
Let me see if I can flip myself around. Maybe. You have to go. Sorry.
You know what? It's a learning process for us all.
Right? Okay, let's do this. That might be a little better.
I love the ground. So this is the hospital in, correct?
Yeah, this is the ITH hostel in Big Bear. It's actually so what's cool is my tramway's actually here, or a good portion of it is here.
Oh,
So I get here and I'm like, I know you. That's cool. And I'm like, so everybody's here. It was crazy. I'm like, and so they had put me in a different room, and then when I saw them, they're like, oh yeah, we're in this other room over here. And I go in, everybody's in the room. I'm like, can I switch over to this room?
totally. Yeah. It's funny how that happens. Sometimes you're hiking along, you don't see many people, and then when you're on, everybody is there. It's like a party. So how
Yeah.
fun.
So
Well,
apparently there's like a lot of us that are here. So we're all kind of spread out right now. So some of them are in Robin Hood. It's another hostel that's not too far from here. So some people are over there. But tomorrow we got to figure out what we're going to do because apparently this hostel and Robin Hood are both booked out.
oh,
So it leaves everybody like high and dry because some people wanted to stay over, do like a 00 or at least stay until tomorrow night,
right.
No. So we might
Have you
try to,
Airbnb? There's a
that's
lot.
exactly what we're going to try.
Okay. Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
lot right there.
Yeah.
Well,
So I think we're going to all try to pitch in and do that.
yeah.
So, and
Awesome.
this is real quick. That's kind of what it looks like here. I'm in the kitchen right now. So
Okay. Cool kitchen.
it's the only place where I have a power outlet and it's not too loud
Yeah.
because, it's kind of past hiker midnight already. So,
Right. For hiking tomorrow, they're going to be in bed already, most likely. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, nice
So,
taking the time to come on. I know you just got off trail. So how long are we?
yeah, I'm literally fresh off the trail, like not even 2 hours
Wow.
off the trail. I did a 21-mile day today just to get in. So that's how bad I want to just like, relax. And I finally had a beer too, even. I had like a little seltzer or something.
Nice. Ethan beer,
Somebody
right?
was, somebody was nice enough to leave a box of alcohol for the hikers that would come in. So I'm like, I'll help you out, drink that.
Yes. Totally.
So, and I had my half a pizza already too. So I'm good to go.
You're set. Then you just need a shower after this, right?
Yes, yes. I need to shower because I don't smell fresh anymore, and I can smell day hikers at this point.
Yeah.
And so what's funny is we were coming through Whitewater, like Whitewater Preserve area,
Yeah.
and it was hilarious because everybody that was walking by, because suddenly you're like, there's no more like PCTers anymore, and you're like, where's all these people coming from? And then you realize they're all coming up from the Whitewater Preserve campground, and you're just like, oh boy, oh boy.
Um,
Don't mind me.
totally. Yeah.
So, and I'm like, oh, I smell day hikers. Oh gosh.
Most
I'm
likely.
like, I know that, and if I smell them, I know they smell me. So I'm like, I mean, you're on the PCT, huh?
It's a two-way street.
That's right. That's right. I'm pretty sure there's a couple of people that are like, oh, and it's the way it goes. It's the way it
It's
goes.
the way it goes. I never had back to me except one, like, it wasn't even a hike. a trail runner.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Whoops, sorry.
That's the only, you know, after so many miles, it's the only, and that was early on. That was outside of, oh, what's the lake? Near, is it Cleghorn Campground? Is that what it's called? I'm totally drawing by Cajon Pass. That big lake.
Okay, okay.
Anyway,
I haven't hit there yet.
That's
okay.
where.
Oh boy.
But
anyway. The nice part is by the time I hit Cajon, that area, I'll be fresh with the shower and about 4 days out. So.
Of finishing or 4 days? I'm trying to remember.
So I'll be 4 days out from here. So from here is about 5 days to Cajon Pass. 4 if you're really going fast.
That's right. I did this in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, amazing. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on the name, but this amazing lake. Dry, and then beautiful.
I think I'm losing your audio. Your audio is dropping. Yeah, I think it's because you're on speaker or something. I'm not sure.
I don't have earbuds in. Is it better now?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
my wife's
dropping them.
Body, so maybe that's the problem.
I'm not sure. Usually it's when you have when you're on speaker, it like tries to noise cancel, so sometimes it'll drop out your voice.
Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. And I don't have earbuds with me, so I apologize.
No problem.
Still works. But yeah, so if you're open to it, I have some questions for you, unless you just want to tell us about your experience.
Go for it, and then I'll fill in the blanks.
So we've done this with a couple of our trail team members already. And so I know you because, you know, we've been on Zoom together before with our trail team and that whole thing. But just for the viewers who don't know you, I usually like to have the hikers give a little intro for themselves, and then I go into a Q&A. And usually I'll do like an intro Q&A, but you've already started. And so I have a different set of questions. So we'll get into those questions in a second, but would you mind giving a little intro for yourself, where you're from, what do you do when you're not hiking, etc.?
So my real name is Donahue Holland, and so my trail name is Def Pos, which is actually short for Definition Positive, which is like my DJ/production name. So when I got on trail, I'm like, I'm not going to call myself a third name, like a third moniker, because that's just too much now. Like, I don't need to go by 3 different types of names. It's ridiculous. So anyways, I'm like, and so I've told that story to a couple of people, and they're like, that's fine. It works for you. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm like, I'm just going to go with that. And so about myself, I'm not a young buck anymore. I wish I was. So I'm 49 years old. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley of California. So that's kind of why, if you wonder why I speak a little bit differently, that's why. And so I usually don't talk about race and things like that, but it's a thing. So for me, I'm very multiracial. So Panamanian, Costa Rican. My great grandparents are from like the Bahamas, so like Jamaican, and like Jamaican, I think French. I forgot, they kind of got together and hung out. You get the idea. And on my dad's side, they're from the Bahamas. So I got like this influx of all these different like cultures and, you know, things going on. And in the house where I grew up, it was like salsa all the time and merengue, and, you know, and so my mom tried to teach me Spanish unsuccessfully, just because her friends were like, hey, you don't need to speak Spanish and you don't need to teach them. But I kind of wish you had done. So word for the wise, if you had kids and you can teach them another language, always teach them another language, like 100%. So, and that way you can also, they can pass it on to their kids and yada, 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 you know. So I did take Spanish class in high school, so that did help a little bit to get me over a few things. And then, you know, sometimes when I talk to my mom, you know, we try to speak Spanish whenever possible. I'm not fluent like at all, but every now and then we can kind of do a little something, you know. So, anyways, so I grew up out there, and then so that's part of the reason I decided to do the PCT, because it kind of goes back into like traveling. My parents are like huge travel buffs. Like they've traveled the world, like literally traveled the world. And so I'm kind of like part of that. Like I love travel in general, adventure. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a trail all the time, but I just love going to all these different places and seeing different things. And to go with that is like when we would go traveling, like we would go out to San Diego, we would go out to Rosarito, Ensenada, we would go all these different places in California, Palm Springs, go up the tram that goes up to San Jacinto. You know, we go out there, and so all these different things have like this nostalgia kind of thing for me, to go on the trail. And you know, growing up with that, same thing. I think I had mentioned it before with the Boy Scouts, and also with my best friend David. We used to go out, and you know, him and his dad, we used to go out and adventure, and like, I mean, literally all over the place. So it used to be like Malibu Creek and Big Bear and like all kinds of stuff like that. So, and then when I was in the YMCA, we went up to Big Bear a lot. We did Camp Little, that was up there. That was really fun. Saw the stars for the first time as a kid, you know, because like when you're even in the valley, like the San Fernando Valley, it's not the city, but there's still so many city lights that you don't see the sky. You don't see what's really out there, you know? And so when I went up to Big Bear and we were at Camp Little, I remember looking up and like, oh my God. Like, it's just like you realize really quick, like we're on a planet, you know, like what in the hell? And so it makes a big impression for, you know, for a child watching that. And so all of this, and so it's funny how I am now. I'm in Big Bear and I get here, the first thing I do, I'm looking up like, now I remember what that was like. Now I remember, because that camp is not too far from here. And so all this whole thing, you know, as we go through San Jacinto and all these other places, it's like, wow. And that's part of the reason why I decided to bring my parents to start the trail with me. They didn't start the trail, but they drove me to Campo. And that was just a big thing for me, like to help me start this kind of like journey, and for them to go somewhere they've never seen before, especially as travelers. This was like a whole cool new thing for them. You're like, hey, let's go do this other thing. And so that was really, to me, that was important. I'm sure for them, that was really cool to kind of see me off as well, like from the Mexico border. And then I've been having like constant contact with them every day. So that's been really cool. And then same thing as I move further on down the trail, there's all these like little stops along the way that I thought were really cool that I can kind of see, and kind of plays into that, into the nostalgia type of thing of it. So, as far as like hiking background, like I said, I've kind of, I'm always like in the outdoors, even when I'm at home. Like I've redone my like landscaping. I don't know how many times. My neighbors kind of laugh at me, but I'm always outside. Like I'm always outside. Like unless it's like literally freezing cold, I'm outside. And I'm not really like a homebody. I enjoy having a home. I enjoy the luxuries of a home, but like if it's a nice day, I'm going outside. I mean, it's that simple, you know. And actually, some days if it's snowing, I'll go outside too. If it's been really, just for the fun of like, hey, it's really snowing outside. Let's go check it out. There's like a foot of snow on the ground. Let's go walk around. You know, my family thinks I'm nuts, but you know, it's, you know, I think it's fun. You know, it's just something different, and just go outside and go do something. Even if you're just going to go hang out in the backyard or something, you know, go enjoy it. So, what else about me? So let's see. So now I work for, we'll just say the cable company. I'm not going to name names, but I work for the local cable company as a fiber optic tech. So I kind of work my way up to that. And so it's been interesting. It's a fun job. So I've been in that industry since like '96, so I'm a gearhead and techie at heart. So it's like all the little electronics and things that make things work, and um, all just anything gear related. I love that stuff. So I love tinkering and all that. So which reminds me, when I show you my cook kit, I've worked very hard on it. Okay. I could go get it now, but I don't want to. I don't think you want to. I'd have to leave and like go to the other room and get it. So I'll have to do like a separate video on it. I've gotten a lot of compliments on my cook kit. We'll just say that.
Okay.
And I've worked really hard to like get it down to where I was really happy with it, because I was trying to, without giving away too much, I was really trying to kind of like do three things at once that most people on trail you're not able to do, and I was able to like get it all to work together. I'm gonna leave it that. I'm gonna leave it with that, because there's certain things I really wanted to do, and I'm like, how come nobody's done this before? And I'm like, I got to figure out a way to do it. So I figured out a way to do it, and that so far has been working really well for me. So as long as you have the right components, you can make it happen. So. Let's see, what else about me? I am married with one child. We're living in Salem, Oregon, and been together for almost 20 years now. Long time. So, what else? Like I said, I do like music stuff too, a little bit of production, DJing on the side. So like, what do you call it? I'm blanking out. So I used to do a lot of podcasts. I don't do as much now. So I work with a production company that's based in Portland, Oregon. So I do all my podcasting and stuff with them rather than this other company, just because it's easier to just deal with the one company. And that's usually when we do events in Portland. Then I'm just like with them all the time, which reminds me we have a show coming up in April. So I forget who I'm opening for, but yeah, we'll be opening up. I'll be DJing live, and I think it's the end of April in Portland, Oregon. So if you ever hear it, it's called Juice Drum and Bass, like your juice squeeze, so Juice Drum and Bass. So it's Portland, Oregon. So little plug for them out there.
Look
So
at are saying yay for Oregon, love Salem, that whole thing. Yeah, we have some Oregon.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Yeah, I only live like 2.5 hours from Santiam Pass, where the PCT cuts right through, and that's like my stomping ground. I'm usually up in there, and you go by like Three Finger Jack, and just there's like Diamond Peak and things like that as people go through there. So we hiked Diamond Peak, and that was really nice. We tried to make it up, but the peak had other plans for us that day. So the wind literally knocked me down. Like that's never happened to me before. So I'm like, okay, respect. I'm going to get down now. Like, it was my friend and I'm like, all right, thank you.
Not today.
I'm good. I'm going to get down. Not today. So, and as far as my like hiking resume, like I said, done a bunch of stuff when I was a kid, and then life kind of gets in the way. So many years I didn't do anything for a while, but I'm always doing stuff outside. But like the last few years, it's just really been ramping up. And then like you do family camping and things like that, and so that kind of lit the spark again of, especially living in Oregon. It's like, oh my God, like the light bulb went off kind of thing, and I'm like, I got to get out there, like really get out there. And I went and did a trail in Central Oregon. I forgot the name of it. It's near, oh man, I can't remember. It's somewhere in Central Oregon. I forget the exact, Tomalau, near Tomalau Mountain over there. I think it's Tomalau Trail, I think is what it's called. So I went and did part of that, and I'm like, oh my God, like that just completely lit it. Like it was on after that. And then so I just started doing my research and getting my gear back and everything like that. And I'm like, I got to do this. Like this is my thing. Like that's it. I got to go back to what I used to do. So to me, it's like it's not. I'm not a stranger to it at all. You know, it's just like something that I bringing it back from where it used to be. So, so along with that, just a bunch of, you know, side trails, any trails that we can get our hands on. And my buddy, Jason we worked together, on and off. I found out he has a YouTube channel, and then we also got out and we were doing more stuff, and we don't always film and things like that. And I got into filming a little bit more, but, you know, we started going out and doing trails, filming or not, doesn't matter. We just got out doing trails, you know. And so, and then we hooked up with another set of people, Oregon Hiking and Climbers Association. And so we went out and do some other more big trails. And so we ended up doing, there's some peaks that we did in the Wallowas. That was beautiful. Oh my God, the Wallowas, if you ever get a chance to do the Wallowas in Oregon, absolutely. I think it's Eastern Oregon.
Yes.
Yeah, write that one down.
How do you spell that? Millau.
Wallowas, so Wallowas, Wallowas. So the Wallowas are, I mean, I can't compare it to the Sierras, but it is unbelievably gorgeous out there. We went to Glacier Pass. So you hit like 7,500, and I think there's Fraser Lake. And then above Fraser Lake, you go up another 1,000 feet elevation, and then there's Glacier Lake. And I got up to Glacier Lake, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now. Like, it was just so beautiful. And that's up at like 8,300 feet. And then so it's so nice because there's nothing above that. Like, you're at the top of the mountain, like quite literally. And there's just this beautiful lake sitting there, like motionless. You're like, unbelievable. So we went to the top of that, hit like 8,500 feet and drop it all the way back down. So there's a bunch of other lakes all the way around. It's like a whole loop. You could do the whole loop, you know, however you want to do it. We were out there for, I think, 3 days, almost 4 days. I think I injured my knee. So we had to kind of, yeah, there we go. Ice Lake, Mirror Lake. That's part of them as well. So those are all, there's a bunch of little lakes. There's even other trails you can make it even longer. Yeah, in the Eagle Cap Wilderness. So beautiful area out there. So we also, with the Oregon Hikers and Climbers, we did South Sister as well. And they invited me to do Helen's whenever it comes up. So there's just so much hiking in Oregon. It's just ridiculous, and Washington as well. So yeah, everything's just been ramping up from there. And then, like I said, we did part of Diamond Peak, and then we also did another part by Subtle Lake. I think we did, that was the same trip, and we went and did Diamond Peak. So we hit Subtle Lake and a bunch of other stuff, and then came back. So it ended up being like, I don't know, I think it was like a 45-mile round trip we kind of did in like a few days. So that was nice. So yeah, and then as far as the PCT is concerned, just whenever I can get on the PCT near my house, you know, just do stuff up there for training. A lot of training. There's hills near my house that I would just go up and down the hills, you know, where I could actually get like real elevation, because flat doesn't really do anything for you. So I would just fill my pack up with like 3.5 liters of water, full load out, everything, and then just go hike. And then like I think it was the weekend before that, we went to, I went up to Washington, and there's much more up in Washington. The hills are bigger, that kind of thing. So we went up, and there was a lot of rain and snow and things like that. I'm like, perfect. I had my whole pack with me, and I just went and did it. And so the first day I went up to the top, that was when I talked to you guys on the Zoom call. Yes. Remember I said that was that was one of them. And so they had snow. I was able to break out my micro spikes and everything like that. So what you don't know is I came back the next day, went all the way to the top, went all the way down the backside where it's even like really steep, like really rooty and steep. Went all the way to the backside to the bottom, and then went all the way back up to the top. And as I was on my way back up to the top, well, I had passed some people going down, and then I was coming back up, and I guess they were coming back down. And they're like, is he coming back up? I can hear him talking. I'm like, sorry, I'm training, you know. And so I had the full pack on, and I had like rain gear and everything like that. And it was just the look on their face was like, is this guy nuts? But it was like I wanted to like push myself to a point where I wanted to be comfortable with what I'm doing, and I'm glad I did, because some of the stuff we just came from the last few days has been ridiculously hard. And so, especially what people have been going through San Jacinto, and even after that, and then trying to go back up the hill through is just a mess. It's just a mess. So, yeah, just a lot of training whenever I can to build up for this, and um, yeah, just whatever I can do. You know, even if it's, you know, I got a treadmill for the house, and so you could go as long as you want, and you know, have incline training, downhill training, and so that's in the comfort of your own home, and it's raining outside. So that's what allowed me to kind of like hit the ground running, so to speak, as opposed to needing like, you know, 5 miles here, 8 miles there, and kind of like build up slowly. Like I went and did like 20 the first day, like boom, go. And then I wasn't doing 20s every single day, but I was doing high mileage days, higher than normal. So fortunately, no injuries. I am sore, but that's mainly because of this last section just destroyed me. It was really difficult, really difficult. So uh, a lot of mental hurdles where you're really, you know, you get to that point where you're like, why am I out here? Why am I doing this to myself? You know, like, and then you're like, well, I can't leave. I can't just walk out of here. Where else am I gonna go? Like, the only way I'm getting out of here is somebody pick me up and like take me out of here. Well, I guess we're going forward. Like, because this, I mean, literally, you just got to keep moving. And so, you know, somebody had written on the trail like way early on. I think within the first 20 miles, they wrote on there always forward. And I forgot the other thing, but and I'm like, you know, it just makes sense as you're moving, and you just have to keep remembering that. Don't stop, or at least stop as little as possible, and just keep moving. Just keep moving. Just keep moving. Don't stop unless you absolutely have to. You know, don't, you know, drag or crawl unless you absolutely have to, and you have to take a break. Okay, fine. Other than that, just keep moving. Just keep moving. Don't stand there and do nothing, because you're not making any progress. You know, you just keep moving. Even if you have to walk at 1 mile an hour, like, don't just stand there. I mean, don't, literally just keep walking. Just keep going. You'll eventually get there. Not as fast, but you'll eventually get there. And so you have to keep that in mind. Like, and especially when you get into those tough times, like, you can't just stand there. I mean, if you're in the middle of a canyon, what else are you going to do? If you know, like, you can't just stand there. You got to keep moving. Are you going to go back? You're not going to go back. Well, you might as well keep going forward to where you have to be. And well, there just happens to be this giant mountain in front of you. Well, what are you going to do? You keep going forward. Like, I mean, that's really all it comes down to. As much as it hurts, as much as it's uncomfortable, as it's cold, as whatever, just keep pushing through until you get to your destination. But it's something with the, you know, like, I've never hiked the PCT. I've never hiked this long before. But one of the things that I do understand is, like, you have a destination. Yes, you're trying to get to Canada or wherever you're trying to get to. For me, it's not as long. Like, I was shooting for 500, but every single day you're getting closer to that goal. But your goal is actually like where you're camping that night. That's your actual goal.
Yeah.
Your goal is not what's coming up in, you know, 30 to 90 days, or, you know, what's coming up in a week. That's not your goal. Your goal is where you're going from this moment in the morning when you wake up and where you're hiking to camp. That's your goal. That's it. How are you going to get there? You're going to have enough water when you get there. That's it. Like, and just do that over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Right. Yes.
And as long as you understand that, then you'll eventually get to where you need to go. But if you're thinking too far ahead, it's going to mess with your mind. It's going to feel too big. It's going to weigh on you. And so the more you just sit there and you just chip at it, just chip away at it, and you'll eventually get there. Like, there's a lot of times where I'm like, this like it feels hopeless sometimes. Like you're like, I feel tired, I'm whatever, I'm not going to get there. Like, no, just get to where you have to be, camp, sleep it off, keep going the next day, rest, whatever, keep going, but just rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Rinse and repeat. And then suddenly you're there. Like suddenly you're like, oh, this is the town I was trying to get to. Like, hey, cool. I got it past my goal. And so yeah, it's a tough thing to understand at first, but when you get in the middle of that, that was part of this last like few days, was just to get that understanding, like just chip away at it, and eventually you'll get there and realize that your goal is a lot easier to achieve in small chunks. So I'm pretty sure you kind of understood that already with some of the trails that you've been on
Oh yeah.
and realize,
Long
yeah,
distance stands this. Like keep moving forward. And
yeah,
it's almost a good motto for life too. There's
oh
a lot
yeah,
in there with hiking and then
mm-hmm.
life in general. Keep moving forward. So
Yeah,
yeah, long distance hikers understand that for sure. And that kind of brings
yeah.
to, I know you kind of went over this a little bit, but one of the questions is in so far on trail, you mentioned the last, week was pretty tough with like San Jacinto,
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing Fuller Ridge and Apache Peak. Um, can you go into specifics? Like why was it so hard? I'm guessing the snow was intense and that sort of thing, right?
Right. So I did skip Apache,
Oh, that's right.
San Jacinto. Yeah.
You
So the
did.
reason I did is because I hit Spittler. I
Okay.
did go through Spittler,
Hmm.
and I had already said in my mind, if I'm going through Spittler and it's really bad already, then I'm gonna just skip and drop down. Like I had that already. And like it's I'll know when I get there, kind of thing. You know, if I'm going through Spittler and it seems like okay, and I don't see any other snow, like it seems real low snow, then I'll continue on. But it's like I'll make that call when I get there. And after I went through Spittler, and Spittler was like ice axe and micro spikes, like 100%. And I'm like, yep, no, I'm not doing it. And just you have to think about like your own, what's going on. Hey, you just made it. You made it back. Ah, that was Mosh Pit. Um,
That's a great trail name.
yeah,
Love it.
I met him earlier in the week, so he's done the AT already too. So in what 2019, I think he did the AT. But yeah, he what was I saying? But yeah, I figured I'd make the call when I get there,
Yeah.
but I had a plan B. So in other words, when I get the Spittler, if it's good, I go through. That's my plan A. Plan B is if I go through Spittler and it's just trash and it's just I'm already breaking up my microspites and ice axe, I know it gets worse past that. For when the elevation gets higher, two, the snow is going to get thicker. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to continue. So I made that call, started dropping down, and that's like 4.7 miles off trail miles to go down to the. So it's not an easy thing to say. Yeah, I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna skip because obviously I want to go through, but the other thing I have to remember is my own safety, my safety for my family. Because they don't want to lose me. I don't want to lose myself.
Not worth it.
And so, yeah, it's not worth it. Then now the other thing on top of that, remember I said my parents don't live too far from here, so I literally can cherry pick when I actually go to that area when it's safe.
Mhm.
So I can go back, I can make up the miles. Not a big deal. I can come back in the middle of the summer whenever I want to. So did the 4.7 down Spittler Peak Trail. By the way, that is a beautiful trail.
Good to know.
I don't know what happened, but it's like that whole trail was like groomed. It was beautiful. Like the trail maintenance crews went through there, and it is beautiful. Like you're just like and there's I don't think they're because it's a west facing slope and
Okay.
it just kind of zigzags down. There's
Hmm.
no snow. Like maybe a tiny little patch of snow, but it was no snow all the way down.
Score.
And yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It's a long way down, I'll tell you that. Like 4.7 miles, like zigzag, and you don't know where it comes out the other end. You're like, this is a long way down. So, but it was worth it. I got down and then camped out, and then in the morning I got a pickup from Grumpy, picked me up, took me into Idlewild, and then so I went from Idlewild, did a zero, and then I went a little bit further down the trail to Black Mountain Road, which is like the furthest road you can get to before you actually go outside of Idlewild. So it's like, the easiest way I could put it is like it's the furthest north along San Jacinto Mountain, where you can actually go back up to the PCT, catch the PCT, and then go back down the 20 miles down. So once I got up closer towards the PCT, then you could actually, you're like overlooking like Cabazon and things like that. So that was really cool. But effectively, what I did by doing that is I skipped Apache, I skipped San Jacinto and Fuller Ridge in one swoop. But Black Mountain Road wasn't that fun either. I mean, it's a road, but it's, when you got to a certain point, it was snow. So I was post holing, that kind of thing on Black Mountain Road. I'm like, this, I was trying to get past this, but you have to remember that it's all part of the mountain, all snow. So you're just like, okay, well, I gotta just deal with it. So I had micro spikes, and I have like waterproof socks that I put on, and same thing. You have to go up, and then there's some spots that are sketchy even on that. Once you get off the road and onto the trail, not the PCT trail, but it goes off into a separate trail. And as you're going through that, you still need micro spikes and ice axe in some locations because it gets pretty thick over there. So, and then you finally meet up with the PCT and start working your way down. And even that had a ton of snow on it. And so you really had to be careful until you get to a certain point where there's just no more snow. Mm-hmm. And then you're dealing with the 20-mile descent after that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I went with that. But the people that I know that went straight through, and some of the people that are actually here at the hospital, they're like, you made a really great decision, because some people got caught up there when there's a weather storm that came through, and they had and some of them were post holing up to their knees, some of them up to their thighs post holing at like barely 1 mile an hour. And they said it was like the most sketchy thing they've ever done. And that's, you're only talking like a week ago. So I don't know what it looks like now. Probably hasn't changed much, but yeah, they said it was an experience coming through there. So I'm like, yeah, I'm so glad I did not do that at all. So I have zero regrets, zero.
Yes.
So.
You can always go back to that part later when it's
exactly. So
nice.
Yeah, I hope that answers.
I get why that was difficult. Post holing is not fun. I know.
No.
And going 1 mile per hour is not fun either, so I get it.
Not like that. No, that takes all the energy out of your body.
It's so difficult. It's so difficult. And by the end of the day, you're dead. Like you're normally away without snow, and then to layer the snow thing on top of that, it's over. It's really hard. But moving forward, right? Going with that theme.
Exactly.
So what's been kind of difficult for you? What's been really amazing about your trip so far?
Besides the views, the people. Like when they say the PCT is the people, it's kind of weird. It's almost like the people make the PCT as opposed to like the PCT trail itself making itself, It's really the people that get onto the trail, the people surrounding the trails. In other words, like the trail towns. So you could have day hikers just walking through that want to talk to you. Hey, are you doing this thing? Oh yeah, you can. And then you have the hikers that are on there already. You're sharing experiences, things like that. It's like it's more not necessarily the social aspect of it, but this huge community of people that you're meeting and personalities and all this other stuff. I think that's what's making a large amount of the trail. And it's it sounds silly, but it's true. like that, almost like that's part of the experience. It's not just hiking. You know, hiking is hiking. Hiking is one thing. Hiking is really hard in some places, you know. But when you add in all these other aspects of you know, doing a hard trail, and then you find like people that you can hang out with and talk trail with, and just like whatever, like it changes the whole dynamics of what you're doing, you know, just immediately. So it's really cool. And then meeting people from all over the world. Like I was hiking with people that are from Germany, and we're Hansel and Gretel. I don't know if they're here or not. They might be in another hostel. But there's people that in another hostel that actually started like 10 minutes before I did. And so we've been kind of talking and meeting people from, you know, started way before I did, some people that started after I did. So there's people that have already done the AT before, and, you know, talking trail with them, and, you know, they seem like so seasoned already. I mean, you're meeting people that have giant packs, and you're meeting people that have tiny little packs. I'm not there yet, but I'm close. So,
All good.
and so there, yeah, it's just, and I mean, even here, like the hostel, you're meeting different people, and just, and the trail angels are amazing, just amazing. Like I can't even say enough about that. It's just their, you know, what their selfless actions are doing are really helping people out, especially when they really need it. You know, getting people, you know, picking them up from parts of the trail that you wouldn't really think about, and just literally doing runs back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and like running here, running there, and like unbelievable. Like you can't even imagine how much they've helped, you know. And some people, it's not necessarily their business, but it's their, you know, they just want to help out. You know, they just want to be a part of what's going on, and that's a huge, huge part of the trail. That I knew it was social, but I didn't think, or you know, that community and social, I didn't realize it was that much. Like it's way more than you think. Um, and sometimes, you know, trail magic comes out of nowhere. You know, um, you can't always use it, but sometimes it's there for people that need it. So, you know, there's a lot of water sources. You know, there's bottles of water here at when I got to the Big Bear Trailhead. There's a whole case of water sitting there. You know, somebody had to bring that up there. Somebody's got to replace it. You know, there's just it's really cool how it just stuff just kind of pops up, and you're like, wow, like you might think that it might be there, but you're not like expecting it, you know. And sometimes I've had like snacks in my bag that I'll just give to people. Like I had some Snickers, and I'll just hand out a Snickers. Like, whoa, like in the middle of the trail while you're walking, you know. And so I'm trying to give out a little bit of my own trail magic. So, but yeah, I forgot the question, but I think I was on it.
Yeah, just what's been so great about the experience. So yeah, the community agreed. These
Yeah,
people,
yeah,
right? It's like, wow,
yeah.
these
Yeah,
people.
and that and just yeah, and that and just like personal growth. You're like, you know, the trail is gonna be hard. You don't realize how hard it really is, but then you know you mix into that like personal growth. For example, like this is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. Like I've done some really hard stuff. This was like right up there with like the hardest thing you can possibly imagine. And then you add into that like you're stuck in the middle of nowhere and you can't do anything about it. No, I'm good, thank you, thank you. And then you get stuck in there in the middle of nowhere when you can't do anything about it except keep going. You know,
Right.
like you're kind of forced into it, and it's you spend a lot of time in your head. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it makes things interesting. It makes things
Right.
really interesting. So, and a lot of those times I was actually by myself, which was weird. So there's a full day. I forgot which day it was, but I'm pretty sure I only, yeah, it was only, I was the only person I saw on trail that one day. That was really weird. And then the next day, I think I saw like one person that was going past me for something. And I'm like, this is weird. Like, especially on the PCT, but you're in a unique area where not everybody's moving like super fast.
Right.
So not like a freeway kind of thing where you're just in this really weird area where everything's just kind of slowed down and people are really spread out, and yeah, it was it was really strange, but Um, but it pushes you to a place where, you have to grow. You're forced to grow. You can't, like I said, you can't just stand there. You have to keep moving. So,
Yep.
um, and just chip away at it, 1 foot at a time, 1 foot at a time. It might hurt, it might be feeling comfortable, whatever. Just keep going.
Right.
It's yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different than regular society where you have a little bit of something doesn't quite grow right. Well, okay, well, oh well. No, you have to
You
like
gotta figure it out.
you
Gotta
gotta
get
figure it out. You
have to get
can't ignore it.
to a road. You gotta
Yeah,
figure.
yeah, yeah. You gotta figure it out. There's no going back. You just keep going forward and get to your destination, or at least if you can't hack it anymore that day, just set up your tent and go to sleep. Figure it out in the morning. There's a couple
Yeah.
of times I had to do that where I'm like, I'm not doing another 3 miles just because it didn't really matter anymore. Like, okay, fine, 10 miles. That's it. I'm done. Like, I'm done.
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm going to go to sleep, eat, figure it out in the morning,
Yeah.
do 12 miles. All right, I'm going to go to sleep because
Yeah.
I'll figure it out tomorrow.
Right. But you made the decision to stop and then figure it out tomorrow. You have to
Right.
make all the time on trail. And that's what I noticed in my experience. I'm like, I make decisions all the time. Like
Yeah.
you have to know where you're gonna camp. You have to know where the next water source is. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you have to keep moving forward and making decisions
Yeah.
on the trail, which leads to
Yeah.
growth.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. So,
Love it. So I have a couple more questions for you. I know it's getting late, but a couple more, and then
that's fun.
I know you're probably really tired. So I always ask trail team members about their gear. So what's your favorite gear? Is it your cooking setup or is it something else?
Hmm. Probably is my cooking setup.
Okay.
Um,
I'm
like
so curious about
I,
it.
I love my tent, but there's like I love the geometry of my tent. I have the Durston X Mid 2P, and I've been getting a lot of questions on it.
Okay.
And so a lot of people are. It's a hot tent now, but I got it back where I got it before uh, it blew up,
Yeah.
so where you could actually like get it like at a normal time, time frame. So
Right.
this is when he was back on like drop.com.
Hmm.
And so, but I saw that I'd seen the tent before, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." Then I had spent a night in a different tent that was very similar to a duplex, and I remember just laying in that tent, and I was like, "This tent would be perfect." It was just had like a slightly offset design, and I was just kind of thinking about like how I could how I could maximize a tent, like. And then I went and saw his tent, and I was like, "That's what I was thinking about, like just like that." And then so like I said, I'm a kind of like a geeky kind of dude. So I love, you know, anything like electronics or just gear in general, like how it's built or what materials they use, all that kind of thing. Um, so I kind of nerd out on that kind of thing. So um, I love the simple geometry of it and the fact that when you pitch it, it doesn't have like long lines sticking out everywhere, you know?
Yep.
You want
Okay.
ibuprofen? You good? Okay. You got the hiker hobble.
Oh,
Um,
do you
and so, yeah,
help yourself?
no, not me.
Not
I had, so I love the geometry of that tent. Like, and so now he's making some revisions to it and things like that. It's a great tent overall, really great, and especially with some of the updates that he's done. So, it's not my favorite gear, but it's definitely my, I don't know how to explain it. Like the techie part of me gets like that's really cool. And so I can see what he's done with the design and things like that. So, um, but I think my favorite piece of gear actually is my cook setup. So I'm really proud of that. So I haven't seen anybody with that similar design. I've seen people with um, some stuff that was similar to it, but they could only do one setup or a different setup. But I'm not going to tell you where I found the middle ground.
I'm so curious. You're like how it's set up, or is it like a secret?
It's not a secret. I've showed it to a couple people. I showed it to a couple people, and then they were writing notes down.
Oh,
Okay, okay, use this and use that. All right. Okay, cool. And what size did you use it?
okay.
So I'm gonna have to do a video where I actually like sit and actually I'll probably do it right here, but I'll do it probably tomorrow.
Awesome.
Um, and just kind of break down. It's not that far different from what a lot of people are already doing.
Okay.
The only difference is I let's just say I made it more efficient
Okay.
and
Hmm.
maximize what I could do with it. And so that, because I was really trying to like do two different things at once, and I was able to achieve that. So I'm really happy about that. So once I finally got to, do my little calculations and things like that, I was like, oh, let me try it out and see if it'll work. Bam, it worked. And so I'm like,
That's
yes.
awesome. We'll be looking for that video or that post if you post.
Yeah, I'll post that up as soon as I get a chance to. So that's one of those I definitely got to do because a
Mhm.
lot of people have asked me questions about that, uh, and then they see me when I pull it out, they're like, "What the heck?" Like, and they're like, "Is that a thing? Is that?" Yep. Some people can't figure it out, and then I like, "Oh yeah, I did this and I did that," and so yeah, I guess it wasn't a huge change, but it was something that I added to an existing cooking setup that a lot of people have, except they're missing this one thing that they could add to that already existing system, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I didn't reinvent the wheel,
Hmm.
but I figured out a little thing that was missing. And we'll leave it at that.
All right.
So
Excited to see this. I'm so excited. So,
so
yeah. So kind of to segue, you're talking about cooking pots. So my last question for you is, what are your favorite foods on trail? Like, did you have a great meal in town, or do you have something you really look forward to on trail preparing? I always have to ask about food. So this is the food question.
so the food that I brought is not. mm, I'm proud of the rice and beans mix that I made. So and I've been eating that almost every day except the days I'm in town. And so what it is, it's I prepackaged. I don't know. I guess it's like a 1 cup worth of dehydrate or not dehydrate the minute rice.
Hmm.
So it's half cup minute rice, half cup of like refried beans, and then on top of that, I add dehydrated green bell peppers and red bell peppers
Mm.
on top of that, and then I add in I think it's 2 teaspoons of olive oil on top, and then I add in like a vegetable seasoning, like probably like another tablespoon of vegetable seasoning on top of that, and then boil water, add it in, and then so all I do with my cook pot really is just boil water in there. I don't really like cook with my cook pot. So it's more like because you destroy your cook pot when you actually like start cooking with it. So I get the water to a boil. So I do like about I guess about 1/4 to 1 ratio. So I have a little bit more water because otherwise with the rice and beans it soaks up too much water. Same thing with the rice, and then it just becomes like a blob. So you want a little bit more water, and it doesn't taste it doesn't taste fun. So I get it. So now it's good, like a nice balance. So I add all that in. So I boil the water, add that in, add in the ingredients, mix it up, and then let it sit for like 10 minutes and let everything like rehydrate, and it's still hot. And then so while I'm doing that, then I kind of put away like get my sleeping pad ready and things like that. So while it's just kind of like off in a corner. And there's one thing that happened, and I forgot to film it, even though I should have filmed it because obviously it doesn't happen. It didn't happen unless you filmed it, right?
I guess not. Yeah.
I did spill one right after I made it, and it was on like day 4 or something like that. And so I cooked it up, got everything ready, put the ingredients in. I don't know what I was thinking, and I just kind of like, oh my god, it was sitting on top of the stove still, and I just tapped it, and the whole thing went, and it was luckily it was cooking inside of like a fire pit area, and so it just went. splash all over the place. And I was like this, like,
Oh,
oh,
awful.
oh, no. Like no, I just put everything in there. Like, no. I was so distraught. I didn't take a picture of it. I was just like, no, this did not just happen. And so I went. Luckily, I was kind of in between resupplies, so I still had like another one that I had to take from like the next day. Like, I guess I'm just gonna grab another one. Well, grabbed another one, made sure it was nice and stable. I didn't knock it over. And so yeah. So that's my rice and beans. But um, as far as and one thing that I'm not ashamed about it, but it's been kind of helping me is I've been eating these like honey stinger energy chews,
Yeah.
and I eat like a bag a day, but I don't eat it like all at once. So I kind of eat it like once an hour.
Yeah.
Like I'll have one, just and then I'll have another one because my blood sugar doesn't like to stay in one spot. So anytime I feel like a little off, I'll pop one in.
Yep.
And then so usually what ends up happening is I'll have like by the end of the day I'll have like two left. And so or I'll have like three left or I'll finish a whole one. So I'll have like one or two extra in the morning for the next day. So um, those have been I'm not gonna say I've been living off them, but they've been pretty good. They're like nice and tasty, get different flavors and such. The rest of my food are just like fill-ins, things like that. I will tell you the pro bars. I'm over the pro bars.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
can't do the pro bars anymore. Like, and they're probably in my resupply box too, so I might
Oh,
be swapping those out. But those, I don't know. I don't feel any like it doesn't. Maybe the calorie count is too low. Like maybe they're not dense enough. Like I wouldn't mind going to something like a Green Belly or something like that. That's like 700 calories or something. I think I'd be happier. Those are in my other resupply boxes that I haven't sent out yet. But I think I'd be happier with something like that.
mm.
As far as like when I'm in town or things I want to eat, I'm always craving oranges. Like serious, like citrus fruits. Oh,
Hmm.
like citrus fruits. I guarantee I'm packing out citrus fruits here from here in Big Bear. Uh, so yeah, citrus fruits. So oranges, anything in that family is really nice. And same thing, I like it because it kind of comes in its own packaging. You don't really need anything special. You just pack it out and peel it and throw it in your trash bag. Like you're
Yep.
good.
Yeah.
And
I always crave like orange juice when I'm in town. So my second
mm,
middle name is Freshly Squeezed. I'd always be like, do you have fresh?
ah,
I was that bougie. Freshly squeezed orange juice down.
right. That's good stuff though. Fresh squeezed orange juice. Oh,
Hmm. Cool.
oh gosh, yeah, yeah.
Ah,
That and I have a thing for pizzas when I get into town. Apparently, like I
mhm.
had like maybe it's just because I have too many burgers at home, but like I had burger once and it was like it kind of didn't really do much for me. But man, when I get into town, I can get a pizza. Oh my gosh,
Yes.
the yeah. So far it's been pizza all the way. Like
Mhm.
I got a deep dish and I ate half of it before we got on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I'm like I need to stop so I can have some breakfast in the morning. So, but yeah, those are the main things I'm craving. And then I think I got into Mount Laguna, and I remember the guy I was hiking with right in front of me. He had a full can of Pringles Original,
Mm.
and he's hiking in front of me, and it's sitting like where I can see it clearly. And it was just the guy in the front of the package he was just staring at me like I know you want to eat me, don't you? And I'm like I told him I'm like I'm eyeing your Pringles right now, right? He's like you can have some. I'm like I'm gonna wait and get my own. So
Yeah.
when we got to Mount Lagoon, I bought a full size can and I ate half of it outside the store.
Yep.
So, oh my God, it was just, and then
Class.
like the next day, I was just eating like Pringles. I was just so happy. I was just sitting there eating like, oh God.
It's fun. Body crave. Like, and sometimes it's unexpected too.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
I never drink soda. Like in my
Mm,
adult life, non-hiking life.
Mm,
But then when I'm on trail in town, I just want a Fanta. Like that's all I want when I
yeah,
get fresh
yeah,
orange juice and then Fanta.
I believe it. I think so. What's funny is I haven't gotten my hiker hunger yet. Like everybody keeps talking like they're maybe it's still early. I don't know, but I haven't.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, and some people say that. I think what I've heard is that uh, you're not necessarily hungry, but you're not satisfied. So normally when you eat something, like you feel full or you feel whatever, like it's just you're not satisfied. Like you know you should be full, but you're like it. So I think that part of it is starting to kick in. That specific part is starting to kick in. But like I've been noticing that I've been kind of regulating myself. Like, okay, I know I shouldn't be eating a whole pizza right now. And you kind of, your brain is like, we shouldn't be eating a whole pizza right now. So I almost did. And I'm like, I'm just going to stop myself. But yeah, yeah, it's kind of, that's about it on the food front. I really, yeah, the citrusy stuff that's really what I'm craving.
Yeah.
Not too much on the soda. I've had a couple like I guess trail beers, like a couple of Trail Angels had beers, and I think one other person nearby Scissors Crossing, I think they had bought beers for like the whole group. So I haven't even really been like drinking, or I don't think I've even had coffee in like I don't know 4 weeks. And I usually drink coffee every day.
Yeah. Wow. Good for, well,
So
that's impressive. Some people cannot give up their coffee on trail.
yeah, and the same thing with the alcohol. Like I'll have like a beer when I get home, things like that. And so what I did is I'm not addicted to coffee, but I like coffee. Like I like the taste. I don't care. It's not what it does for me. I just like the taste in general. And so it's like a nice little ritual. You get your beans together and all that. It's sometimes it's a little bit more than just the coffee. And so I'm like, I'm not gonna have these things when I get out there. So it's like I had to like weeks before the trail, I started like cutting down, getting to the point where I just wasn't having it anymore. Not like I didn't want it, but I was like, I'm not gonna have it
Mhm.
because I'm not gonna have it. I'm just take it out of my life. Like I don't, and I want to be able to like come down. And then so when I get to trail, I'm not like, oh my God, I want a coffee or I want this or I want that. Like if it comes, cool, but I don't want to. I don't want to be in a situation where like I'm like having like serious cravings or something like that. Like I want all that to be like gone. So like now, if I have a beer or I have a whatever, it's nice. It's cool. Like I still haven't had coffee yet, but I don't know, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah. Who
Maybe.
knows? You're
They're making breakfast here at the hostel, so maybe I'll have some coffee.
not.
So that'd be nice. It's
Yeah.
gonna be a 0 day anyway, so no problem.
Yeah. Awesome.
So
Well,
yeah.
so is there anything else before? I know it's 10. It's been an hour, I think we've been talking. It doesn't seem that long, but I just looked at the clock. Um,
No
so
problem.
wow, that you covered a lot and you covered a lot of my questions too. So this was great.
Okay.
We're so happy that you were able to get on. Is there anything you want to leave us with before we sign off?
So did I tell you I'm getting off a little bit early? I'm
No, so
not sure if I mentioned it.
planning on 500 miles, but is there a specific like
Yeah.
town you were going to stop at?
So I'm gonna stop in El Cajon, which is I
Oh,
think like
yeah.
3:35.
Yes.
And so I'm still going a long distance, but it's essentially the next stop after here. So it's where the famed McDonald's is.
Yes.
That's the location.
Yeah. Thumbs up.
So, so I'm at least gonna hit that for sure, and then probably walk up the street to Del Taco and get some more food.
Oh, right.
So, you got to. I mean, you're in that spot already. So I had already planned for my parents to meet me there originally because I was going to give them like all my winter gear and things like that, just to like kind of unload like 3 pounds off of me before I continue on. But I was thinking about it. I'm like, well, I would have been down here for like 5 weeks and I hadn't even seen my parents really. Like just it'd only be just to drop me off in Campo and that one little meeting. And I'm like, I can't be down here for that long and not see my parents. And there's not too much more going on past El Cajon Pass. I'm like, you know, I live in the area. I can do it anytime.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of a deal. I'm like, I can sacrifice a week and then, you know, make it up some other time. So I'd rather, you know, use that last week and just hang out with my parents and help them out with the house and things like that. So it's a very small sacrifice, you know, to do that. I've already gone through quite a bit already. By that point, I would have already done, you know, 335 miles, which is
Yeah.
not like nothing, you know. And so, so I'm proud in that case. You know, I've to here is what 266, so that's not shabby. It's not shabby. And I haven't gotten hurt yet. Like, knock on wood.
Yes. One would.
And so I know some people they barely get out of, you know, they barely make it to Warner Springs without injuries, or
Yep.
even to Lake Morena without injuries. And
Yep.
so I'm so far. I mean, I'm sore. There's certain parts of me that are sore, but that's pretty normal. I mean, if
Yep.
you're walking all day, every single day, something's gonna not feel right at some points, you know. And so I think the only thing that I'm not concerned about, but the only thing that's the most sore is my left Achilles is just tender, and that's mainly because of like the steep, you know, slope. So your feet are constantly like this, and then going back down, and then trying to roll over the rocks and things like that. So it really works your ankles and your knees and things like that. So uh, yeah. So
And as I
but
had to,
yeah, that's about it.
okay, yeah. Well,
That's really
yeah, take care of those Achilles.
yeah.
I got
So
so
that's part of the reason
both my Achilles, and I had to rehabilitate them for 6 months after trail. So definitely
wow.
take care of them. I don't know,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, just
Oh, I did forget to mention, which we probably hadn't talked about, was gear changes. I did make some gear changes. Like
oh yeah,
everybody makes some, you know, gear changes. So um, before I got on trail, I did a lot of shakedowns, a lot of shakedown hikes and overnights and, you know, long trails. Oh, I also forgot to mention I did the Timberline Trail, which is
right,
part of the, you
yeah,
know, goes around Mount Hood. So that was a really good one too. So um, I I made a lot of gear changes with that as well. That trip I was really dialed in already. But as far as this trail is concerned, I pretty much used everything that I used on the Timberline Trail because it was already dialed in. The only thing that I made changes to, I think, was just the cooking setup that I made some adjustments to. But as far as once I got on trail, my number one thing that I had to change was my shoes, and that was my fault, completely my fault. I don't know what I was thinking because I know that I'm supposed to get a, go up in size. And when I did the Timberline Trail, I'd use a specific shoe, specific size, and I went out and bought another pair, and I didn't really think about the size. I don't know why. And then I went out, put the shoes on, went out on the trail. Cool. And then after a few days, I'm like, why are my feet hurt? Like my feet shouldn't be hurting this much. And then I checked the size, and it was my regular size. And I'm like, oh God, like my regular, like everyday size. I'm like, no, no, that's why my feet are hurting. So Luco tape to the rescue.
yes,
So Luca taped up as much as I could, and I ended up getting like one small blister on the back of my heel, which wasn't that bad. I popped that eventually, but so when I got to Idlewild, I swapped out my shoes for a different size. So I went from a size, my normal size is 12, so I went up to a 13. But then with as many rocks that I saw going through, there's a lot of rocks in the early section, is I made sure I got something with a rock plate as well. So the shoe itself, the shoes normally don't come with a rock plate, so I had to get an insert. So I got the Superfeet Carbon, which has an insole with a rock plate on it. So if you get the Superfeet Green, it has a rock plate as well, but it's a lot thicker, and it has like a higher stature for your arch. I have really wide, flat feet, so when I step down, like everything hits the ground. So I can't have anything that's too high up. So it has a really low profile, but it also protects like from my heel all the way up to about my midfoot for the rocks. So once I made that switch, like I took all the and then gave it a couple of days, my feet started feeling better. Took all the leukotape off, so now I'm like leukotape free. Nothing hurts, and except for my Achilles is tender now, and so that was a really good gear switch. And then um, I also switched out my sleeping pad. So I sleep really cold, and with as cold as it has been in the beginning, I was originally using the THRU-r X Lite, the women's version.
Yeah.
So it has a higher R value, but it's shorter. So it's like a 5'6". So my feet were kind of were sticking off, and I thought it would be okay. But because my feet get so cold, it it ended up like giving me problems because now my feet were really cold. And I have a 0 degree bag that feels more like a 20 degree now. Uh, so I called home and had that sent out to me. And then I also had to swap out I had that swapped out to a Neo Air Xtherm. So I have the regular wide version. So it's the 72-inch by 25-inch. And that thing, you can sleep on the snow if you wanted to with it and still stay warm. So that's what I'm using now, and that works great. And also my pillow, I have to swap out my pillow, but I don't think I'm going to do it on trail. I think I'll just wait until I get home because I'm pretty sure it has a leak in it. It's like slow. I'll like lay down and like you can feel it like slowly giving out. So when I'm here, I might try to see if I can get it fixed. If not, I'll just wait until I get home. It's not that big of a deal. So otherwise, I would have swapped that out. But that's really those are my only 2 gear swaps. Everything else has been working really well. So I'm actually kind of surprised that everything's working so well. So I use Darn Tough socks. They're just like the regular like hiker cut socks. I think they're mid height. I forget what it's called. So I use those, and so I switched to the Ultra Olympus 12 or 12 Ultra Olympus 4 with size 13. So, and those are like automatically like already wide. So I'm asking if there was a wide, but it's just they're already wide. Like that's how they're built. I'm like, that's perfect because I've used the Lone Peaks before. The Lone Peaks were really nice, but they're too minimal. And because I have wide, flat feet, when I'd step down, I'd actually like roll off of the sole because it was so narrow. And I've met people that said that the Lone Peak was actually too wide for them because their feet are so narrow. And so when they stepped down, it was too much. And so everybody's feet are completely different, but mine couldn't do that. So I just did a different type of Lone Peak. I originally had the Speed Goats and the Hoka Speed Goats, and they're really nice shoes, but they're trail runners, but I don't think they're made for this type of terrain. Like they're good for like maybe like rough trail, like maybe a couple bumps here or there, but nothing like you're actually going to hike a trail with it. Personally, after using them, I'm like, I could probably do without. Or you'd have to change the insole so you don't get the rocks coming through. And that was part of the problem, is I was having rocks coming in from different angles and like just destroying my arch. And so when I was coming down, and it was not fun. So yeah, other than that, everything's, the one thing, like I said, I told you I was a gearhead. I'm kind of nerdy. So I was testing out some different like wall chargers. And so there's a wall charger that Anchor makes, and it has a 2-port. I forget the name of it, but it has like a power port and an IQ port on top of it, and that was working really great because I have. Here, I'll just show you.
Yeah, you have.
And so I use this one, the Nightcore MB 10,000.
Okay.
I have 2 of these. So the wall plug that I have is now, because I switched it out to like a PD Nano. It's just this little tiny thing, and it allows for the power to come in and then back out. And same thing with the other one that I had. It was good that allowed it to come in and back out. The problem is because these have what they call a pass-through charge.
Okay.
So while you're charging it, you can actually do an output as well. So you can actually charge this and another device at the same time. Not a lot of people know that, but the problem is you have to have the right power plug to do it. Not all the power plugs will do it. So the original power plug that I was going to use did it perfectly fine, ran it really fast, and then I was like, let me go buy this other one because it's that much better, right? So I went and bought it. It's like their newer version. It's like a GD34 or something like that, like nickel cadmium or something like that. But it wouldn't do it. It didn't like the setup. So I got these other ones at Costco, but it'll do it, but it doesn't. It charges like deathly slow.
Oh,
So when you put it in, I'm like, I know this should be charging faster, but my brain was thinking that now I have two plugs, so I have a redundancy in case one plug dies, and I still have another plug. But the problem is the plugs themselves are not strong enough to give me like a good high speed charge. So if I was to go do it again, I would get the other one. It looks like a little square. It's about about that big or so, probably about half the size of this. And that one gave me all the power that I needed. It was great. It was like a 45-watt charger or something like that. And I should have stayed with that because then I could just use one port and then have two outputs, and I could plug my phone into it because one of them was a C charger and one was an A charger. And
yeah.
then I could like flip flop and all that. And I also carry some adapters as well. So I can actually, instead of having multiple cables, I can actually put an adapter on it, and then suddenly I can go from like A to C, so I'm gonna geek out on you real quick if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And so I'll just give you a really quick example. So on this one here is the A charger,
Okay.
the A plug.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have something that uses a C port, then I can change this into a C like
Yes.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So I go from A to C like that. So I can use a C port, or vice versa. If I have something that was a C like that, comes in the C, then I can go and do an A.
Right.
So I can flip flop. So I can use like one cable and I can kind of flip flop back and forth. That's what I was supposed to do, but with these type of chargers, I can't do it. And I did it because these are actually way less. So I was saving like an ounce.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't
Don't.
just. That was really dumb. Like when I started using them, like, why is this not charging the way I know it's supposed to charge? And then I realized, like, I should never have changed what I knew that was working really well. Yeah. So those are my only like I would consider like gear changes.
Right. Going forward.
Everything else, was working really well. So I was using the Catula micro spikes. I have like a Petzl ice axe. I even have like a little ultra pod that I'm using right now for this. And this thing, the ultra pod only weighs, I think, like, it's super light. I'm gonna guess it weighs like 3 ounces or something like that. So it's a little plastic ultra pod. Yeah. Other than that, everything that I brought. I even got a new jacket, and that's been working great. Other than that, like all the gear that I brought is like, when I tested it, the multiple times, everything is like, yeah, okay, cool. Because I've made some changes before the trail.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've talked about it or who's talked about it, but always do your shakedown hikes. Like
Yeah.
as many shakedown hikes, even if it's for like one night, for one day,
Mm-hmm.
like do your shakedown hikes. I don't care how many you can do, but you learn learn so much from your shakedown hikes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm even talking like you go out for 5 miles away from your house, go sleep for the night with all your gear, figure it out, and then come back like the next day, or do like 2 days with all your gear that you think you're going to use, come back, and then spread it out, reevaluate what worked, what didn't work, what you used, what you didn't use. And then that way you kind of keep shaking down until you get to like a smaller pack size and figure out what you really don't need, because you're going to get out there and you're going to find out really fast what you're not using. And, I saw a lot of people in the first like 40 miles just dropping stuff. Like, I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that. And like, those are all the things you should have figured out, like before you got to the trail, with all the different shakedown hikes. Now, I know that it's not always possible for people to do that. but sleep in your backyard. Maybe, sleep, go to a friend's house, take all your stuff with you and sleep in their backyard.
Right.
It doesn't have to be super complicated, especially if you live like in the city or something like that. You can't get to somewhere that's like, 5 miles out. I totally get that. But, we all have friends. Some friends have houses, some don't. I mean, go to a local park. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Set your tent up,
Yeah.
take an afternoon nap or something like that, but take all your stuff with you and figure it out and figure out what's going to work, what doesn't work. Maybe you blow up your sleeping pad. Maybe you'll find the leak in your pillow. You're going to find the leak in your pillow like back then when, you did your little setup, like, oh, that's not working. For example, like my power setup, the reason I found out like the other charger wasn't working is because somebody mentioned something like, did you test your chargers? And I'm like, ooh, I didn't test my charger. And I plugged it in and it didn't work.
Oh.
I'm like, oh my God. And it was like, no joke, it was like 3 weeks before I was about to leave. And I'm like, thank you so much. It was just, all I had to do was plug it in and then put everything together. Like, I think it should work. And it did not work. And just simple stuff like that. Just figure all those little things out first. And I think that's why I'm at that point where I'm not swapping out a ton of stuff, because I figured all that stuff out.
Yep.
Except for my chargers, I messed out of. That was my fault.
Yeah, but and that's a very little thing to have to swap out too. It's not like your tent. I swapped out. I down hikes and I swapped out my backpack. I swapped out my tent. I think that's it. But still, that's huge. Like,
that's major. Yeah.
Go with another option for a big 4 item is a big deal, but at least I could return for full refund. The people that can't usually do that. So it saves a lot of money if you are able to shake down. It saves a lot of money in the long run because you're already.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, you're off trail. You can handle it. You can take care of replacements and things like that. That is the time to do it. I'm telling you, because you do not want to try to figure that out on trail.
No, and then
the logistics of that are
it's just a mess. But people do it. People work, and if that's that's their choice. But it's have to any way you can go to a friend's house if you don't have a backyard. Just at least one night. It'll.
I mean, just set it up. Yeah, literally, just set it up. Like it doesn't have to be complicated. Like some people, they'll come out there and stuff is still in the box. Like that should never happen.
I know.
Never happen. Like you got to figure it out. Figure it out however you're going to do it. Like I said, set it up somewhere, somehow. Yeah. And until you figure out like, okay, this is going to work for me. This is not going to work for me. Maybe whatever you got is too small. Maybe it's too big. All these different things you're going to figure out. You don't want to find out when you get out there and go, uh-oh.
No. It'll like, are you going to go back? No.
Yeah. Like for example, like the shoes thing. The shoes could have been completely avoided just by checking a few things. I mean, literally all I had to do was read labels. I mean, that's it. If I had read the label like I should have, but I mean, that was a human mistake. I'm like, I will take full blame on that, but that cost me money. That's money out of my pocket that I had, saved up for the trail. But I also saved up the money for stuff that could go wrong like that.
Yeah.
And so, but I didn't want to have to spend the money because now I have 2 pairs of shoes when I didn't have to buy any. I could have just changed my other pair of shoes and I would have saved myself a bunch of money.
Right.
So, that was like a $200 mistake.
Right. Got shoes.
And so,
They're not cheap. Well, great tips.
No.
You so much, and I know it's well after hiker midnight, so we'll probably have to sign off, but thank you so much for getting on, Def Pos. It was so nice to see
you problem
again.
Anytime. You too. I know how you got your name now, Cheer.
What was that?
Very, it works for you. Now I know how you got your name, Cheer. It works for you.
Yeah,
it works for you.
On. That's how I got my name. I was cheering people on at Mount Baden-Powell. So.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. So yeah, I get on with you again when you're done, either on a live or even on our podcast. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, excited to just to continue along with you on your journey. So, and we're very
Thank you.
excited
Thank you.
your cooking setup. So,
Oh yeah, I can't forget to do that. Like I said, it's not all that. It's just it's in addition to what some people have already, and not everybody has that kind of setup either. Like it's a pretty minimal setup, but I try to maximize what I was already, maximize the space and efficiency and everything like that. That's all it really comes down to.
okay,
So, but
we're
it's
excited.
pretty cool.
We're so
It's
excited.
pretty cool.
Well, happy hiking, and thank you again so much for getting on. I'm going to save this video, and if you want to post it on your account as well, you'll be able to do that. So it's up to you, but I'll give you the option.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Send it away.
yes, I will send it soon. So happy hiking, and have a
Thank you.
pound day tomorrow.
I'm gonna go clean up because.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
All right, bye. Have a good one.
Thanks for joining.
No problem. Anytime.